Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sasquatch Theory. In this video, I interviewed Darren from Alabama, and he had an encounter in the Bankhead National Forest. He was deer hunting in the area and ran into a creature out in the forest, and he knows it's not any animal that has been documented in the area. The area Darren had his encounter in is the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. I think this would be an excellent area for people to do research in, and you might have a good shot of finding some evidence as far as Sasquatch structures or possibly having an encounter of your own. If you have had a Bigfoot encounter anywhere in North America, please feel free to contact me at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com, and if you enjoy listening to Bigfoot encounters, please like and subscribe to the channel. Alright everyone, let's dive straight into our next Bigfoot ice sighting encounter. All right, Darren, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today?
Hey, Miguel. Doing okay. Pretty down here in Alabama. Beautiful day here. Saturday, tomorrow's Easter. Just hanging in here. Really good to hear from you. I appreciate the show and, everything you do out in the field the way you are, and I'm sure everybody else does too.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Darren, if you would, tell us a little bit about yourself and your Bigfoot encounters from the very beginning.
Okay, well, excuse me. My name's Darren Franks. I'm from North Alabama. Been a drywall contractor for about 27 years around here. The whole family's in the business as it goes, construction. And in 2015, I guess I can start by telling why I was in the woods as much as I would, because I would think, and everything I've seen, hunters have a lot of encounters with these things because they're, in the woods more than most people. You might have a chance encounter if you're out on picnic or hiking or something like that every now and then. But when it comes to hunting, the hunters are in the woods, and they're a dedicated hunter. I guess they're in the woods this is what I was doing. Of course, I've been hunting all my life, just like a bunch of people around down here, and the whole family does. But what had happened was, what put me in the woods like it did, in 2015. I just want to tell this just so everybody know why I was in the woods like I was. In 2015, Alabama's a pay-for-profit prison state, which means they get money from the federal government. So anyway, the prisons are overcrowded, and the system's really messed up. People get paroled on ridiculous. It's like a money thing. I hate to say it here, but I'm just the advocate for it. But anyway, in 2015, this guy had got out of prison he slipped through the cracks or whatever, and he had come into my brother opened a nightclub, and I was down there, and of course he was young, and I was out here dancing with a girl, and this guy had, he's really a menace to society. He wasn't really supposed to be out of prison, but he did slip through the cracks, but he come walking in the bar that night, and he seen me dancing with this girl, and he used to date, back when they never had no kids together, they wasn't married, nothing. What he done, he seen me dancing with, and he just thought to himself, he'd become institutionalized, and he couldn't survive out here. So he just focused on me. He said, well, in his mind, he thought, well, I'm just going to kill this guy, and I'll just claim jealous rage, and I'll be able to go back to where things make sense, But I guess that's his way of thinking, Miguel. I don't know. I'm trying to put things together. But in 2015, this guy stalked me for about 3 weeks, and everywhere I went, he was there, and I confronted him twice, and just to the point of just grabbing him and shaking him like, hey man, why are you following me around? Because because my brother was in a band and he had a nightclub and we were just around here, you know, watching play music wherever and, you know, visiting other nightclubs. But anyway, make a long story short, this guy, after about 3 weeks, this is 2015. Like I said, I'm a drywall contractor. My number's in the telephone book. You know, we still had telephone books. We still had landlines, and you know, cell phones were. You know, everybody had flip phones. Smartphones were starting to come in, whatever. But I guess, yeah, I say that because in a telephone book, you know, you had your address in there. So I'm just explaining how this guy found out my address, and he come to my house. Him and another guy, and the girl driving, and you know, that I've never been in trouble in my life. I'm a contractor. I'm a father. You know, but I'm also a hunter, and you know, I've got guns. I mean, you know, I say that just he come to my house, and I was I was building a house. I was on my property, and it was out in, you know, the county, or in the city. But he come out there, and tried to kick his way into my house, and the other guy just started busting windows, and he called me before he come, which is crazy. And then, you know, I called the sheriff. The sheriff comes out there, and I tell him, hey, these guys are on the way out here, and I'm worried because somebody's, you know, they mean business, you know. And he just writes me about a restraining order, gives me a copy of it, and he leaves, you know. Anyway, the whole night was just crazy, but they did come, and it's just like when it was all over with, you know. You know, I had to defend myself, and man ended up losing his life that night, and another one got shot, and the car got shot up, and you know, I had 911 on the phone. But anyway, it was a very traumatic experience. That's what I'm saying. Uh, and you know, I was defending myself, and it was, you know, even though I had to do what I had to do and didn't have a choice, that really didn't matter. That's just, I don't mean to take anything away from the military, but I had crippling PTSD for, you know, a long time after that. And so my therapy, you know, since, you know, us men are not supposed to have any feelings. I didn't, you know, since, even though I had to do what I had to do, you know, I just tried to handle it on my own, which was a mistake. You know, I really should have got some professional counseling at the time, but I didn't do it. I just resorted to the woods because it was a place I could go that was quiet and peaceful and pretty, and you just didn't have your mind on anything else when, you know, you're hunting, except where you're at and your surroundings, and you know, so real peaceful. So, you know, that's what I was doing. So every time I got a chance to go hunting, I would go hunting. And so I live in North Alabama, and we have up here we got a place called Bankhead National Forest. Bankhead's a big national forest up here. It's and it's also got a management area on it. And you can, as far as hunting this management area, they have management hunts. And what I mean by that, the game warden, they manage the deer herd by, you know, every so often during the hunting season, like every other weekend or every 2 or 3 weeks, they'll have a management hunt, and you can hunt with a rifle on the management property, and that's how they manage the herd. It's, you know, so it won't get too out of control, population control, and, you know, disease and everything else. So they let you hunt on the management area, and so you got to pay $15 for a management permit, which is well worth it because they plant beautiful green fields. And I mean, you know, my buddy had bought some land up there, so I've been hunting at this place for, you know, about 10 years. I do it like the back of my hand. It was up front of when you go into the management area. It was like the first green field, and on the right, if you look at the map, and you know, of course, every hunter thinks, you know, you're gonna kill a big buck, you go way back in the woods. So, like, I guess what I'm saying is I hunted there for 10 years, and I've seen like 2 people. One guy I brought with me and the other guy was lost and kind of walked into the field. But other than that, it was kind of like my own special little place. So it was 2017. Excuse me. It's 2017, and I'm going to one of these management hunts. So I get everything ready, and you have to go to the ranger's station, and the morning of the hunt, before you go into the woods to get your permit. So you go to the ranger station, and there's lined up. Everybody's lined up, ready to get their permits. They open at like 3:00 a.m. So everything goes smooth, and I get the permit, and everybody goes to wherever they're going to hunt. So Friday morning, I get up and go down. This hunt was a buck and a doe. You could take, either sex. So and it lasted this 3-day hunt, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So Friday morning, I get up, get everything ready, get my truck, and go down to the ranger station. I get my permit. I get in the woods about 8:30, and or not 8:30. I'm sorry. I get in the woods about 5:30, about 30 minutes before daylight, and I don't really care. You're not allowed to put a permanent stand on the management area, and carrying a tree stand where I was at, I just didn't. There wasn't no sense of it because I could get in across the hollow from the green field. I could get in there, and there's a big cedar tree laid down. I could just get behind that cedar tree, had a little hunt stool, and I'm hid, and I've harvested, plenty of deer at that one spot. So I get in there, and starts getting daylight, and these two doe come down together out of their bedding area. They kind of fed through the green field. They'll go down into the hollow, while I was sitting on the other side looking back at my green field, and they'll forage down through there for acorns and whatever, like deer do, whatever. And found out later that's going down, and they get water or whatever, and they come back in the evening. It was just like clockwork. So anyway, it gets, like I said, it gets daylight, and these two doe come down through there together, and they're small, and I just let them walk, and they do what they normally do. They went on, forged them down through there, and out of sight. Nothing else come out that morning. Which I don't know, it's kind of peculiar too. I thought that when them two come out, that was just the start of the parade. But I guess all the hunters in there, something in there, just kept them bedded down, most of them. So then, anyway, it gets about 11 o'clock. I don't see nothing else. I don't live far from Bankhead, where I was hunting, maybe 30, 45 minutes, So you don't really hunt in the middle of the day, it's the ruts on or whatever. So I went home to get some, eat a bottle of lunch, got 2 bottles of water, and, come back to hunt the evening hunt. Well, I got back to my place. I was sitting about, I don't know, maybe 2 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock. I'm coming there, and got another 2 hours, 2.5 hours to hunt the evening hunt. And I get sit down, and man, I was sitting there about 10 minutes, And I mean, very out of character. These two doe that went, down past me that morning, come running down my side of the ridge, like right at me. And I made myself known because I thought maybe a buck was chasing them. So I say I made myself known. I was looking because I thought, buck's chasing. But when they got up close enough to me, they just didn't act like a buck was chasing them. They act like a predator of some sort was chasing them because they were real spooky. They were looking back, and they stopped like right in front of me, and they were looking back, and they looked down, and they looked at me, and they just kind of both of them kind of looking back just for just 5 seconds, and it's just weird. But animals are weird. Like I said, I still thought that a buck was chasing them. I'm looking, I don't see anything. And they, of course, started walking off and then started running and straight where they come from, back up across the green field and into their bedding area. I thought, well, peculiar, but, animals are funny and, know what happened. Maybe some bug smelled me and didn't stop, but I was still thinking the whole time, that's a predator. They just act like it, But anyway, so I go home and that's Friday. I get up Saturday morning, ready to do it all over again. And I do. I got to go to the ranger station, nothing. I go straight to my place, beautiful morning and it just, and I'm sitting there and sure enough, about 8:30, here comes a big doe. She's by herself, ain't got no little ones with her and everything. So, I want to harvest this doe. She comes right down in front of me, just like, I always do. And I got a 30-30 that I always been hunting with forever. And so instead of, I had the opportunity instead of shooting her in the side or the shoulder, like they say, I was able, I didn't want to mess up her insides because I was fixing to have to, take care of her and plant and dress her out. And I ain't going to mess her up inside. So I just, one shot, right in the ear, she goes down, of course. But now the work's on, because there's like I said, a hollow between me and the field. So anyway, I get down there and get my knife out, start taking care of her, and I just unzip her, basically, and I reached up in the inside, and I cut her windpipe and her anal tube right there by her anus, and everything comes out in one. Everything, all their vitals come out, and their innards come out in one pile. They're not shot up or nothing, so that's just something you learn after being hunting so long. If you can do that. So, but I didn't have I had a buddy supposed to meet me down there. He didn't meet me down there. I didn't have a cart. I didn't have anything to tow a deer out because I thought my friend was going to come meet me, and he didn't. But soon now the work's on, and I've got to get this doe up this hill to the truck, in the green field. So I didn't have no other option but to throw her over my shoulder. She's a full size doe, and I'd walk a little ways up that hill, and I'd just plop her down, and I'd go back and get my rifle, and you won't leave it there, so I'd just go over and lay down beside her for a minute, just rest, And anyway, it was like that on up the hill, and I ended up getting her up into the top finally, into the green field, and I tied a nice rope. I tied her anyway and drug her, and anyway, I got her to the truck. About 8:30 when I'd shot her, and then by the time I got her cleaned up and everything got her to the truck, it's about 11 o'clock. I said, well, I'm gonna make the same routine I did yesterday. We've got a processor right there around the house. Got processors or deer for us, and I said, well, I'm gonna drop her off the processor and run by the house, get a little lunch and whatever, and go back and hunt the evening hunt again because now the horse is doe, ready for a buck, ready to hunt for a buck. So I do. I drop her off the processor, went by my house, grabbed some bottles of water, and a sandwich or something, and just headed back up there and get back to the same place. But I walk back to the place, and go right past the place where I had gutted this doe, 2 hours before. The gut pile is gone. I mean, it's all, the whole thing is gone. To that little creek down there, it runs through the bottom of it, and I cleaned up right in there when I got through with it, cleaned my knife up and everything. The gut pile's just right there. And I thought, where's this gut pile at, man? I said, there's hair, there's blood, little hair where I done what I done. I thought, man, what a pack of coyotes come down here and eat that gut pile up, and me sitting on the ground. I started getting a little bit worried, but I mean, it's just the whole thing was gone. And there wasn't no, I should have known then that it wasn't a pack of coyotes. I mean, there wasn't no the leaves wasn't messed up. It just looked like something picked it up and carried it out. And now um, I believe that's what happened. But at the time, that was just all I could figure in my mind was a pack of coyotes because that's all we have here in Alabama, North Alabama. We don't have no bears. We don't have no wolves. We've got coyotes. We've got bobcats, and man, that's it as far as predators. Um, um, but anyway, I'm thinking, okay, well, weird. Something wasn't right about it. I don't put it together till later on. That something. But anyway, the gut pile's gone, and I'm worried. I'm thinking about these coyotes. I mean, what is they had to be a lot of them to eat that gut pile up, and I was just gone a minute. I mean, for a couple of hours. But anyway, I sat back there in my stand, everything, get out of my mind, and I don't see anything the rest of the day. So going home, uh, going to Sunday. Let's get on to Sunday. Well, like I said, I had my hunter's orange on. It's public lands. You got to wear hunter's orange. I mean, because they're telling who's out there, and I was hunting on the ground anyway. So it's not only a law, but I recommended you do because there's people out there that's never been hunting before. I mean, it's just the way it is on public land. So, but I went home. I changed clothes, and come back to Sunday. But the only thing I had that left from Saturday before cleaning that deer was my hunter's orange, and it had blood all over it. From the day before. Like I said, I had those done and no way to carry out, so I was throwing her over my shoulder. And, it's so cheap, cough, hunter's orange that you get from Walmart, whatever. And you know, but anyway, I say that because it gets to here in a minute why I say this about this hunter's orange. So I go back to my place, hunt that morning, and it's the last day of the hunt, and it's the last management hunt of the year. So I've been hunting hard that weekend. With deer and everything. I about 10:30. I done said all I wanted to say it, and I hadn't seen a buck this last day. So I said, well, I'm gonna walk down to the end of this green field. It's really cool the way they planted the green field. Every 100 yards it was zigzag, and they done that way to accommodate more hunters, like bow hunters, because you can bow hunt the management area all year long, but only during the rifle hunts, that the weekend can you hunt it with a rifle. But anyway, going down through the green field, since it does zigzag like that, a bunch of times I've come around the corner, and be one feeding right out in the middle of the field. And you can harvest one that way. So I'm actually stalk hunting. But my buddy had told me that there were some beautiful waterfalls down there. If you look up Bankhead Forest here, it's famous for the waterfall, many waterfalls that's there that, for whatever. There's Cherokee land, there's Indian marker trees, there's, it's just really neat. I mean, Bankhead is a really beautiful place with a lot of history and it's big. But so I get my gun about 10:30. Like I said, I get up and I said, well, I'm gonna walk down here and look at these waterfalls. I was gonna check them out because I ain't never been all the way down to where he's talking about. And I do. I get up and go up in the green field. I walk down through there, and of course, middle of the day, I'm in the green field, but I want to see these waterfalls, and I done harvested a doe, so I walk down there, ease down there, and get down there at the end of it, and I go into the woods, or just right into the edge of the woods, straight forward, like and I look back kind of to my right, say 2 o'clock, and way across that hollow, it's the same hollow I was hunting up front, but it opens up and gets really big. By the time I got down there where I was at, the waterfalls were like 400 yards straight across to the waterfalls. But anyway, they're really pretty. There's one, falling down, big one, and falling down the middle, and one trickling beside it. It's really, really cool. So I'm just sitting down there. I sat down on a log, this old tree that was fell down. Um, and I'm just sitting there and taking a break and just taking it all in. I lit me a cigarette. I'm just sitting there looking at these waterfalls. And, the woods are totally, quiet. There's a little breeze blowing, but you know, that's about it. Really peaceful. Well, um, I wouldn't. I sat there about 10 minutes, and well, if you've been hunting, as long as people have, or I have, or, if hunters have, I can tell you how big a limb is, or when it breaks. I mean, I can tell you if it's a very size big limb, it breaks, or I can tell you if a little twig snaps. I'm sitting there and look at these waterfalls, and all of a sudden, snap. I mean, right behind, right there at me, and it was loud enough that it made me jump up and turn around. I mean, I got my rifle, and I say that because I would, they say about fight or flight mode. Well, I mean, I wasn't in flight mode, and not because I'm some kind of brave, bad man. It just, I've been hunting. I had my gun. I was already in the woods and used to pulling it, and whatever, or, jumping deer, whatever. Anyway, um, right behind me to the right, about 10, 15 yards, this limb snapped. And when it snapped, it was so loud and so close that it startled me, made me jump up and spin around. Well, I'm right-handed, and it was behind me, to my right, back behind me, you know, and about 15 yards away, at the edge of the hollow. But it come up a steep hill, whatever it was. When something come up there, it had to come up a really steep hill, and to be able to see me. There was sage grass growing too, and it was really thick, and it was, 3 or 4 foot tall, up to my waist. And when I turned around, you know, what I seen was, it was a gray. Its shoulders looked like they were 4 foot wide. I mean, I'm a drywall contractor. I mean, a 6 sheetrock is exactly 4 foot wide. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. That's what it looked like to me, and it was because it was so tall. But by the time I had, it startled me, I got up, I had to turn around to my right. I mean, to my left, and turn all the way around. And I mean, it had to look at me or see me at one time, because uh, when I turned around, when I finally got looking at it, it had automatically turned around and it wasn't like walking on 2 legs, but it was on its back legs, lunging down that hill. And that only, and it had shoulders, man. Its shoulders did. They looked 4 foot wide. It was gray. It had hair, but it was like the color of a coyote. Later on, I got thinking maybe it was white and was dirty, but it it when it turned around and took off away from me down that hill, like I said, it turned around like it was standing there. I was thinking it was like diving. It hit a little cedar tree that was right there, and then, I mean, just almost broke it in half, just because it's so massive, so big. And I run up, and it took off. I mean, it just took off down that hill, and I run up to it with trying to get it in my scope, to see what it was, because it was huge. It didn't have a tail. It didn't. It had a butt, like you made, like it looked like a human. Oh, it its head was, looked really small for its body, I guess I'd say. It looked like a football helmet on top of a refrigerator. I mean, that's just the way the size of it. And anyway, it took off down the hill, and I just instinctively, I just run up there with my scope, and I was looking down there. I want to see what it was. And I did see it in my scope, and it was 10 foot, long. I mean, it was on all fours. It was running, like, I mean, I've never really seen a orangutan run, but how it was running, I mean, it's the only thing I could imagine that it was similar to. You just the long arms, but it's like its hands were, just touching the ground every now and then. It wasn't really it was like I don't know, it was pushing off more with its back legs and just kind of maybe holding itself off the ground with its hands in the front and just kind of reaching and running, hand over foot, through there. But man, it was the fastest thing I ever seen. Man, it was faster than any horse. It was faster than any deer, and it was all the leaves was off the trees, and it was bobbing and weaving up through there and going in behind trees. But I mean, I got a good look at it myself. It run. It just so fast. It was so fast. It was like a cheetah. It was doing as fast as it could go, 40, 50 miles an hour. By the time it run down that hill through the bottom of that hollow and right and over to them waterfalls and right up the side of the waterfalls, like it had a trail, like there was a path up, so I was saying when I got looking, it was beat down like up and down beside these waterfalls. But it run up that beside those waterfalls and over the hill, and it was gone and just seemed like a minute, at the most. And I'm, I'm still not registering what this is. I wasn't thinking about, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, nothing, because I mean, I just wasn't, wasn't thinking about it. I'm thinking, I think to myself, I don't know what that was, but I'm fixing to find out. I'm fixing to figure it out. I must be having a brain cramp or something, but, within, I'm puzzled, momentary shock or momentary, I couldn't figure out what it was because like I said, we don't have anything that big. I mean, it was big. It was the size of a horse. I mean, but anyway, I walking about. So I just kind of, scratching my head and going through whatever I figure out what that was, and I just within 20 yards, I'm walking back to the truck and I start figuring out what it is. I go through, we just ain't got that many things. We got some hogs. Ain't nothing that big or that fast. Except, maybe somebody's horse or it wasn't a big hog. But anyway, I started figured out within about 20 steps, what had just happened. And then everything started like coming back to me. The two doe that done everything but come up early running to me, and like they was running from a predator, but no predator seen. And I should knew that wasn't a pack of coyotes. Got that big gut pile, just time I was gone, because when I've seen them get a hold of gut pile like that, and they throw everything, and the leaves would be messed up, and they just ravish it. If it would have been the coyotes, it'd been the whole scene. But it keeps on bringing me back to the hunter's orange I had on the day before when I was taking care of that doe. Because I mean, that's the only thing I had blood all over, had blood on, from carrying her like I did. And so I'm thinking it stopped me by smell. And I just hope to think it thought I was a wounded deer. And because when it come up to me, when it snapped that limb, it was just, I just seemed too intentional. Like it done because I mean it come all the way up that hill, big as it was, and I never heard nothing. When it was running away from me down the hill, and when I got up there and I got it in my scope, it was still going down the hill a little bit. You could see the pads of his feet just pop, pop, pop. Like you could see the bottom of his feet. And it didn't have no hair on it. And his hand just, of course, that hair hanging off his arms, I'd seen that because it was reaching out in front of it, but his hands were just huge, man. They just, everything about it was just big. I mean, like I said, it seemed like it was 10 foot long. If you could have imagined it standing up and stretching all the way out. Oh, I mean, I'm glad I didn't see it in the face. You know, I've heard people that do see them in the face and it kind of really traumatized them. I was just confused. It didn't, it wasn't coming at me, it wasn't threatening me. I mean, and I mean, if I turned around and seen it, if it would have been, if either made a move like it was coming at me, I mean, I would have unloaded my gun into it. I mean, I'm just saying, and I don't even know the 30-30, and that's pretty big gun with deer slugs in it. I mean, it probably died, later or whatever. But it just and and it just leaves you with so many questions. It makes me think that I think that it was definitely trying to catch those doe that come back to me the way they acted. I've never seen any deer down there act that way, and the gut pile being gone, and I believe it knew that. I believe it was watching around me the whole time. I believe it actually sat there and watched me get that deer and everything. Um, when it snapped that limb, it was just so intentional that I think it smelled the blood on the hunter's arms and come up that hill and couldn't see over that sage grass. So I believe when it snapped that limb, it done it on purpose to make me move, to make me see what I was. I think it might have thought I was I want to think it thought I was a wounded deer because it makes me feel better. Because if I thought that it actually come up there to make me disappear or eat or attack me and do whatever, I wouldn't really, I'd feel different. So that's what I'm going with. I'm thinking that it smelt the blood on my hunter's arms and it come up there and then it couldn't really see over the sage grass if it was crawling. And it snapped that limb on purpose to make me move or whatever. And by the time I had turned around so awkwardly, had to turn around to the left, and by the time I got turned around, I think it knew what that had watched some hunters before or something, shoot a deer and knew what that gun would do because, I mean, it just took off, immediately. And fast as it was running for its life. I thought I was going to shoot it or whatever. But I just kind of put them things together. It's been 2017, so and of course, like everybody else, after that, I just wanted to know what I had seen. I walked on out to my truck, and it was about lunchtime. Like I said, I'm still puzzled. I'm just thinking now. I know what I had seen, and I putting everything together. All weekend everything had happened, and that gut pile just being like I picked it up and carried it off, and I did pick it up and carry it off, and I know that now. But when I was going out, the game warden was at the gate, and there was some guys. Everybody's coming out of the woods that time. Last day of the hunt, he's checking license, and I walked over to him, and I told the game warden, I said, hey, y'all got Bigfoot, Sasquatch around here? What's going on? And they he said, oh well, no, you probably seen a feral dog. There's a deer hunt up here with dogs, and a bunch of them got left up here. I just looked at him. I said, feral dog. I said, there ain't no way that that was a dog, man. I just quit talking to him. And of course, he's looking at me like I'm crazy. Yeah, I was sitting there was too. But anyway, I just went on home, and I mean, and that it was only in my area right there for that weekend. It may still be there. I don't know because I hadn't been back. I hadn't been back in the woods since it happened. Oh, oh, and it's not really, realization is that I've been hunting all my life there, and if these creatures are there, then I'm sure that I've been around. They've seen me before, but I've never seen one. I remember, way back, years ago, I was hunting in a place over here called East Limestone. I got this creepy, eerie feeling that, and just a scary, skin crawling type feeling for no reason. I remember, and I got down out of my tree stand, walked back to the truck. And of course, that was a county over, but it was the feeling of it was just like I was prey, and I remember leaving the woods that day. So, but that's what happened. It's about January 31st, the end of February 1st of 2017 at Bankhead Forest up here in Alabama, North Alabama.
All right, Darren, I appreciate you for sharing that. Why
Yeah.
exactly do you think the creature snapped the tree limb?
I've got to say that it done it on purpose. It had to have, like I said, I think it was trying to make me move to see what I was. I think it smelt the blood on my hunter's orange. That's why I'm, saying about the hunter's orange. I mean, and stopped me by smell alone or something. That way the wind was carrying, through the hollow. It's, and I believe when it got up there, it just didn't want to expose itself, or you could see it looking at me from the back. It really couldn't tell, but I mean, it smelt that blood. I think it snapped on that limb either to see if I was a wounded deer or see if I was whatever I was. But it seems like when it noticed I had that rifle, that's all it took to, to make it. I don't think it scared me or whatever, but it sure knew. Must have known I had that rifle and what that thing would do when it went off, and you know. Um, so I think it was snapped the limb on purpose to make me move because it come all the way up that, and all the leaves were off all over the ground, but I never heard nothing coming all the way up there. I mean, it just seemed intentional to make me move, see what I was.
Yeah, that's an excellent theory. And they might be attracted to the color orange, the color red, and maybe it triggers them.
Right. Maybe it's that they associated the hunters and the hunter's orange with food and like a gut pile. 'Cause I mean, that's just every hunter that, hunts and harvests a deer in the wood, they leave. And usually they the gut pile there, for, good pile. They know the possums and the carnivores are going to clean it up, whatever. And, it's nothing new, not illegal. It's, to say you do it. And I mean, it just puzzled me. It set me back toward, but now, I'm ready to go back because it wasn't whatever it was in my area. But it was only that one weekend because, and I believe that these hunters that they go way back in the forest and go into the woods, uh, may have run it up there. Then I also got the feeling there may have been a, a male. Say if you compare it to a human being, maybe a young adult that was ready to leave his family and find his own territory and come up there. But I never seen any tree breaks, like I've seen on YouTube. I've never seen any tracks, and I've tracked all over that place, and deer, hog, coyote, bobcat, everything, but never seen any, tracks like Sasquatch tracks. I believe it. I see it, I didn't see the front of it, but I know it just give off the vibes. It was a male, and seemed like he was, because he looked rough. He looked ratty. He kind of looked mangy, you know. He was having it rough. I believe he was hunting in the same place I was hunting. I believe, I know he's hungry because he, it had to be what he picked that gut pile up and took it off.
Yeah. So you think this creature is responsible for taking the gut pile?
Just sure. Yeah, I do now looking back because, looking back, at the time, your mind don't want to accept anything. We want to be comfortable. We don't want to be out of, or when we just don't think like that. So we write things off. And I wrote so many things off that, that was a predator. I should have known that wasn't some coyotes chasing their bobcat chasing them deer and, or buck because where they's acting and looking back and then, coming back just a couple, within an hour or two of that gut pile being laying there and I come back and then it's just gone. Like something picked it up and carried it off. If I think back, that like I said, that little creek that was running down through there, I was telling you about it. I remember kind of looking, around and looking down to the left, going down toward the waterfalls where I told you I went the next day. It seemed like it to me the leaves were kind of smashed down in like a path, like something had walked and smashed it down. But and I'm not exaggerating. I'm just telling you what I can remember. Things come back to you after you look back on a situation like that. But I was definitely in the right spot. I've questioned myself if there was hair where I'd go to deer, and but I just rode out the coyotes, something. That's all I could think.
Yeah. What did the creature's face look like?
I didn't see it in the face. Like I said, when I that's what I was saying about when it was looking at me at one time, but I wasn't looking at it. Because when I heard the limp, that snap, and by the time I turned around, it was kind of behind me to the right. But man, it was 10, 15 yards from me. I was right at the edge of that green field. Ain't wide at all. It's only 50 yards wide. So, uh, but by the time I got up and had to turn around to my left because my gun was on my right shoulder, it had done seen that. It seen that I wasn't deer or whatever, wounded deer, like maybe it thought I was, or it seen that I had that rifle and was know what it done because it automatically when I turned around, it had already turned around and started to run, but it was, and like I said, it was like it was diving. It was lunging it from its back feet. Like I seen its shoulders, I seen it, little head. Just I don't know. I say they ain't got much of a neck, but it's like these wide shoulders. I guess made its head look so little, but I'm sure it didn't have a little head. I mean, it was the size of big pumpkin. I mean, everything was it. Its hands was just like a pack of bananas. I mean, they were, I seen it through my scope, and then I watched it, and it just incredible the way when it was running, when it stretched its arms out, man, it was reaching way farther out there than it should have been able to, you know, at a time or two. I mean, its arms were just really long, his hands were big, and just incredibly fast. Oh, I'm glad I didn't see it in the face, and I'm glad it wasn't aggressive. I'm glad it didn't try to attack me. That's all Uh, I look back on that. I wouldn't have wanted to do the way I did. I say, and I agree that one of these things will be proven to everyone because I'm just as shocked as anybody that didn't believe in these things or whatever. Because you just about got to have an encounter, or to see one to be sure. I don't blame the skeptics, people that write it off. It's better off probably if you don't know what's out there, if you don't believe in these things, because I believe that's why the government won't expose them. I believe the Park and Recreation would lose so much money on campers and everything, hunting license, everything else. If they admitted they was out there, and you know, I may be going back. I've talked to some people since then and told my, about my encounter to, Carrie and Bigfoot, Aussie, and Danielle, and you now. And some more people got in touch with me, and we may be going out there after the hunting season this year and just look around, and see if there's in the area, because about a year or two after it happened, of course, I'm a construction worker, and I was talking to these guys on the job site, and they were two painters, and I didn't mention anything about Bigfoot or Sasquatch or what happened. We just started talking about hunting, and I told them where I'd hunted at for all that time, and they both raised their eyes, and the one guy, whatever, looked at one guy, looked at him, he said, man, we was painting a house up there. He said, I know exactly what you're talking about. He said, we went up there and parked at that gate, and this wasn't during deer season. It's just so nobody's there. He said, we just sat there and ate lunch and everything, but we was painting a house close to there. He said, man, we was sitting there. He said, and something hit a tree. He said, it sounded like something swung a 12-foot 2x6 and hit a tree, and it was right there, at not far from us. He said it resonated through the truck, and we could like feel it. He said I automatically cranked the truck up and got out of there. I didn't say anything about Bigfoot or nothing to him. I just had mentioned where I was hunting, and it's the first gate when you go into the forest. So, and there's a couple of houses on the road going up to it. People own some property, so they work on one of those houses. And he just out and told me that and that blew my mind. But when he said that, but it was confirmation as far as I know what it was.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've actually had an encounter like that. I never talk about this one because it happened probably early last summer. I don't talk about it because I've had so many encounters. I just don't want people to think I'm crazy. But I was going slowly through the woods, and I was doing these owl calls. And when I got to the edge of the woods on top of this ridge, something came up and ran up towards me, and I could see three like black heads. They were kind of bobbing up and down. And then by the time I try to get my cell phone out, they realized what I was. They took off running like a herd of horses. But this thing was sprawled out like 9 to 10 feet, and it was jet black, and it had like white on its back. I think it's the one I'd seen before. And they took off down that ridge, down the creek, and it sounded like horses running through the woods. You could hear rocks flipping and everything down in the creek bottom, and they tore through there. But this thing was so long and sprawled out. It was like you said, it was like a cheetah, but I never got a good look at it. I just saw like these three black heads going up and down trying to figure me out, and then I got a good look at it when it was sprawled out, and I could see him running through the trees down into the creek, but that was it. I never got a good look at it.
People say, well, if you're saying, why didn't you take out your cell phone? Let me tell you something. It didn't matter if I'd have had a Nikon camera, and all I had to do was turn it on. When that happened, I mean, there's no way I'd have thought about a cell phone if I'd have had one. Like I said back then, I had a little flip phone, but it's the last time you're gonna think of. It's amazing, and it's fast, and encounters fast. They're not encounters like Gimlin had and Patterson had, to walk up on and it have to walk in the clear back to get where it's at, and they just usually don't move fast. It seems like the ones in California and up in Canada are more like nonchalant about it. They've been around, maybe the Chehalis people, maybe the Native Americans. They've been around them and they just walk off from them. Yeah, but this thing, it actually, I mean, that's why I say it must have knew I had a rifle. So as far as tree knocks and stuff, I talked with, Kerry brought this up, and he said, well, asked me if he tree knocks. I said, well, I'm thinking about it. I said, I've heard something, but I always wrote off. I thought it was a woodpecker. We got these big old red-headed woodpeckers, they're woodcocks, so some people call them, but they're giant woodpecker, very big species, red-headed woodpecker, and they, but woodpeckers don't peck. I'm sorry, but they don't peck. Bam, bam, they drill, So looking back, I mean, that could have been a tree knot, but I just think this thing was in my area this weekend, that one weekend, and like I said, it may still be there because I ain't been back. But the encounter when you're in the woods, like he's talking about, looking back and you never see anything about it. Things come to you as you're thinking, and I just believe I mean, I think they're everywhere. I mean, if wherever they want to be, that from I don't care if it's a little scope of woods that's coming out, into some of these subdivisions that are moving out into rural areas. I mean, they're curious. They,
Yeah.
seems like maybe you study them a lot more than I have, and I just, they're weird the way they're curious and they, do things they do, and that was definitely creepy, weird, and then it creeped me out so bad that I just thought I'd take off hunting for a little while. I hadn't really been back, but it's been that long, and now I'm ready to go back and see because time heals. you know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What did you see whenever you had the creature in your sights, like in your scope?
When I turned around with my eyes, it was just massive. It looked like a giant human being. It had it you know when I could just frame. You kind of take screenshots if you want to say of things when it happens in the moment like that. I'll never forget how big it was and how barrel shaped. It was just huge. It just even in the middle, it was just huge around like it just and shoulder wide. It just but when it took off down the hill, the hill's really steep. When the hollow, it just went straight down it like it wasn't nothing, man. And by the time I got up to the edge of it and got it in my scope, like I said, it looked like a reason I compare it to a orangutan is because when it stretched its arms out there and it's kind of like I'm picturing it in slow motion because I did see it in my scope and I watched it and I got a good look at it and it had hair hanging off its arms, just weird, just man, so weird.
Yeah. Come to
Yeah,
think of it, all the Sasquatch I've seen, they take off downhill after they get caught. And even there's a video online from a bow hunter. His name's Tim Wells. He's
yeah,
seen one whenever they're up there elk hunting in Colorado. That thing tore off down the mountain. And it seems like they want to go downhill whenever they're caught.
that makes sense because if you want to run fast and you want to get away from something, if you got a chance to run downhill, they're gonna get faster than anything else, running down a hill, and using gravity and leverage as it was going. His back legs were just moving together. It looked a cartoon. It was not natural. It was not anything you ever seen wrong because the way it was stretching its hands out. You talking about that one you saying it was kind of sprawled out, crazy looking like what it was doing. It's not, something you see from anything else. I mean, oh,
Yeah.
I get you, man. I get you.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, man, I found you. I appreciate talking to you, man. It's really a treat for me because I've watched so much, and I was watching the Killing Fields back again last night because I love the guy on there. This guy here has really been through it. The guy on the farm, that had all the dead deer he's bringing up, and then you know the Killing Fields. Of course, that's one I watched it last night, uh, man, it really ain't nothing. It's I didn't really have an encounter like Kerry had or some people have had where they just got right in your face and like one Kerry on had. I mean, it was actually mad at him for hunting those turkeys. I believe those turkeys was what he considered his, flock of turkeys that they would get the eggs from, or get a turkey off the roost every now and then. It was really mad because Gary was, hunting his turkeys. And that's what I got from his encounter. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I remember Carrie saying it was out of season, so they probably didn't see any other hunters. They weren't expecting that.
right. But he said he hunted that place himself, and he said they'd been around. He comes to realize they're really active there. It's like he's talking about the crashing through the forest. Now where this thing run, when it run away from me, there was nothing down there, big hardwoods. There wasn't no little trees or any undergrowth. It was so clear. Like I said, that's why I say I got a pretty good look at it at the time I could get it in my scope up through there. But I crashing down through there, and even when it run away, Miguel, it didn't even barely, it didn't hardly make no noise. You could hear it a little bit down through there, but uh, it just just for a little bit, it was hitting, it was running on those leaves. Actually, I think it was silent. I don't know if it was trying to be quiet, but it not like a horse or a cow or anything as big as it was, not making it wasn't making enough sound. If that makes sense. I like it was stealthy. It was, you know,
Yeah.
like
It was trying to
naturally,
get out of there.
yeah, but like naturally running on those leaves quietly. If that, if ever I kind of describe it, like, um,
Oh, yeah,
it
they
just,
can be real stealthy if they want to.
yeah, it's so big like that, and that's why I think it snapped that limb on purpose. I just about know it did to make me move to see, you know, if I had that smoke pole, that stick that shoots at things, but it was in my area that weekend, and that's the last time I've been in the woods, and um, uh, I but I never seen any tracks in there or anything. So like I said, I believe it was a young male either left his family group looking for its own territory, or it got separated and run up there by the hunters that went in the back. Uh,
Yeah, most likely there's more Sasquatch around. And did you quit going hunting altogether or just in that area?
I just I quit altogether. I just that really I ain't gonna lie to you. After it didn't. If I'd have seen it in the face, I'd have probably. I mean, I'm sorry. If you'd come at me, if I wouldn't, I I thought about it. I would have definitely. If I would have unloaded my gun in it, which I think I would have, because it scared me so bad. I had my gun up to my shoulder when I turned around. A deer is not gonna walk up on you. Okay, I mean, they're not. And whatever it was in my mind, I knew it was, whether it was a man, whatever it was big enough to snap that limb. I wasn't in flight mode. I was in fight mode. It scared me, and I had my rifle. I just naturally brought it up to instinctively brought it up to my shoulder, and but I was looking at it with my eyes till it took off and down the hill. Now I run up to the edge of the hill since it wasn't threatening me running away. I want to see what it was. So that's when I seen it through the scope, and uh, it's just weird, but I realize it now, and I looked it up. Well, of course, my encounter got put on there to start with carrying them. I got to looking at, you just look up Bankhead Forest here and Sasquatch, or of course the encounter's called, surprised by Bigfoot in Bankhead Forest, surprised by Sasquatch in Bankhead Forest, and since it's got big Sasquatch and Bankhead in the word, there's so many encounters that I didn't know about. There. Uh, God, there's a horse camp up there. Guys out there riding the trails, and hey, him and his horse both gets chased by one. He's turning around shooting at it over the back of his horse, and his horse running full blast, uh, and find out there's a lot of encounters here in Bankhead Forest. It's the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains that kind of end down here in Alabama. So that's why it's like it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. And It's an awesome looking area with all the waterfalls, and I'm sure there's plenty of food sources for a Sasquatch living there, or multiple ones.
Sure it is. Sure it is. I mean, and plus, they don't have any other big predators like we don't have any bears here. So, and then as far as if there's waterfalls like there are, and they stay. If there's cave systems all through it too. Because just like the waterfalls are here. Um, uh, so I mean, wherever they want to go and whatever they want to do, they got plenty of forests and to do it in without worrying about anybody coming down deep in there. But like I said, that one either was the hungry and hunting and ended up there and got separated maybe by those hunters coming down and it was in my area and but after the pioneer guys told me that it's a couple of years later that they'd heard that right there that kind of let me know I think it's still in that area because it's nobody ever goes right there where I'm talking about. It's 20, 30, 40 acres, which is a really big place for forest. And with the water source and everything, he could have actually, claimed that territory for his own if that's what he would do. I don't, it's all a mystery. It's the questions, that you have afterwards, uh,
Yeah.
reflecting, on everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'd be all right to go back hunting, but I don't blame you for not going. I don't think
No,
they're all over the place. I mean, they are, but you're not going to see one every time you go out there, so I think you'll be all right.
yeah, if it's on there or whatever, and it wasn't, in my mind, he was stalking up there to eat, to attack me and tear me to pieces and eat me. That's what I thought at the time.
Hmm.
Now, looking back, of course, that was just fear and adrenaline and everything. Looking back, he knew, if he wanted anything to do with me, it could have got me, anytime. If he, you know, anytime that weekend, as a matter of fact, if he wanted me, because I mean, he's sitting there moving back and as quiet as he was, there wouldn't have been no problem with him to get in 10, 15 yards of me, and that'd have been it. It wouldn't have been no time to pull a gun or nothing else. But, you know, they got that human trait to them, like you know, I believe, I believe they've been here since ancient times. I believe they've been in this continent before the Barren Lands Bridge was ever built. I believe they were here before anything. Uh, and on this continent, more than.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also believe that maybe one time, I looked up where Leif Erikson, lands in the continent and has an encounter with them, and then I, read, some of the older, 400 or 500 year old tales of, him trading, giving them furs, and they're, this out here in Alabama. As far as giants go, Chief Tuscaloosa in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, he was a giant. His son is, if you look up Chief Tuscaloosa here in Alabama, his son was like 7.5, 8 feet tall. These men land here, and he is the son of the chief of the tribe, and the chief's name is Tuscaloosa. They bring the men to meet the chief, and when they get there, they put them in. They go in a tent with these women who are also extremely big and tall, but just look like regular people. And then he goes on to say when they met Chief Tuscaloosa that he not had the order of 10 or 12 feet tall. That the two men could have stood on uh, their on each other's shoulders to look him in the eye, or he could have been on his knees, sitting down and looking them in the eye. I don't know if you've ever read that. I just got into, so they don't hunt anymore. I just got into kind of watching YouTube, a bunch of other people and figuring out just everything that viewers don't know about that, and maybe they want to check it out. It's really interesting to me to read that about encounters, hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, I've heard of legends of 12-foot tall Goliath like skeletons unearthed in Alabama. So
Yeah,
maybe there's a connection there.
Lovelock, the red-headed giants in Lovelock, Lovelock, Nevada. That's just proven fact. And everything. They had them there at the museum, and then all of a sudden they disappeared. They reappropriated, but I actually think the government took them and everything up. I know they were there because I wrote a report on them. And it just so happened, M.K. Davis done a special on them. I'll say it later on, where the red-headed giants, in the Paiutes out in Lovelock. So, but anyway.
Yeah, that is interesting. Maybe there's a connection, and there possibly could be.
I'm not about holy road Christian or anything like that. But reading the Bible, and when it says Jehovah giants, in those days, even President Lincoln, I think, gave a speech at Niagara Falls, when giants were something in order when giants were here gazing upon these waterfalls, back in antiquity, as we are now, President Lincoln said that in one of his speeches. Yeah. So, they referred to, and the Indian mounds being dug up and giant skeletons in the Indian mounds with, not normal size, just I got to stop. I've got into it too much apparently because it just led to that we're not being told everything that, that's history, that's really happened. I'm not saying it's being hidden. I'm just saying it's not being acknowledged and maybe that's a good thing. I just a few stories I've heard that's known about hunters or anybody else being attacked by these things. Now there are a couple, but that's they're rare, and some people are rogue, and some people are definitely on a scale more bad people than there are bad Sasquatch apparently, But there are some incidents where people have gotten that they have attacked people, and
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to say why they attack certain people and others they just take off, but maybe they feel like they get cornered in sometimes, and they got no other choice.
Well, I believe some of them are I believe some of them are, like generations ago. I really believe they were a type of people or a type of tribe. I mean, you hear that from Mr. Hallis, that they were a type of people, and but and then again, I believe that after generations that then being wild, living in the forest and like an animal, a bunch of them took on animal predator more instincts than they have like the old days, like maybe when they were part of the tribe, or something. I mean, or their parents or grandparents, maybe.
Yeah, that's a possibility. All right, Darren. Well, I think that pretty well covers your encounter and any questions that I had for you. Do you have anything else you'd like to add to the podcast?
Man, nothing except that. Like I said, man, I just say I'm just glad to talk to you. I watched you, now for like 2 or 3 years, and you being out there in the field like you do is just unique, and you've been doing it for long enough to where as far as investigator in the field and and the podcast and everything. If anybody's going to find out what they are and prove it to the world or whatever, I think you got a better chance than anybody else I've seen. I mean, I'm just saying that because that's the way I feel. West is great. He's got great, and Kerry too. But I mean, you're out there, man. And I hope all success in the world for you. And channel and everything, you put work into it. And kudos to that. And you observe everything you can get from, doing this for everyone that, that wants to know.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you for saying that. And I know you've been through a lot, so I hope things get better for you. And eventually, it gets taken out of your mind and you're able to move forward.
Yeah, I'll never forget it, but now I look back at it, it's just something that happened, like an encounter with a grizzly or an encounter with a predator. They're just reclusive, and I believe this is this I believe it was a road male. I believe he's a little desperate, and he was also a wild creature. Mostly. You know. So, man, I appreciate you calling, Miguel. Like I said, it's a treat. I hope you, everybody, your viewers and your subscribers, if they got any questions for me, I'll be in the chat on your video to comment. I'm Hollow Frank. It's what that's my name on YouTube, and so send me a comment, and that's me.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. And I really appreciate everything you did today and for sharing your encounters with all of us. It really means a lot to me.
If you ever get down to Alabama, let me know, man. We'll go out to Bankhead and we'll look around. If you ever come through this way, just you got my number, man. Just give me a call. I'll be glad to help you out or whatever, any way you can.
Okay. Yeah, I certainly will. And if I know I'm going down to Bankhead National Forest, I'll look back on this video, find your name, your information. I'll contact you again and be like, hey, let's meet up. Let's go down there.
Good deal, brother. I appreciate you. Like I said, thanks for calling, and we're going to get ready for Easter now. So
Okay.
y'all have a great Easter, and you too especially.
All right, man. Happy Easter, and you take care, my friend.
Okay, Miguel. See you later. Bye-bye.
Yep. See you later. All right, Darren, thank you very much for sharing your Bigfoot encounters with all of us. And I could really relate to this encounter because I've had similar experiences while looking for the Sasquatch. I think the Bigfoot were keeping an eye on you in case you possibly got another deer down on the ground or if you were a threat to the clan. I've heard from many hunters that grizzly bears in the mountains will wait for you to kill something, and whenever you do, they'll run down and steal your kill. Could be very possible the Sasquatch are doing the same thing, and they're just waiting for you to put a deer down on the ground, or, like I said before, they're just keeping an eye on you just in case you are a threat to the clan. And I do agree with Darren that I theorize that this creature is responsible for taking the gut pile, and I've heard that from a lot of people as well, that these things will steal the gut pile, they'll take your deer, and I think that's what was going on. So he was putting two and two together. It's a great theory, and I agree with him. I would really like to hear more about this area, and has anyone out there listening had a Bigfoot encounter in the Bankhead National Forest or anywhere in Alabama? I don't often receive reports from Alabama, so I'm really curious to see if anyone else listening has had an encounter in this state. And if you have, just feel free to contact me at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. But yeah, I really appreciate everyone for listening today. And if you've had an encounter anywhere in North America, feel free to reach out to me. I'd really like to hear about it. And if you guys can, please like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification to stay up to date with all my future videos. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I really do appreciate you guys for tuning in, and you guys be safe out there, and until the next one, take care, everyone.